Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Some of you might recognize me from my other videos in this channel, and for those who do, I cannot express enough gratitude for always supporting this channel, and for those who don't, well, welcome. Don't worry, I really hope that you like what we do in this channel, and I really hope that you like our contents, and most importantly, I really do hope that our contents can be of great use for all of you watching this video. So, I'm Nicholas, and I'm a student in Universitas Methodist Indonesia, currently enrolling in English Language and Literature Study program for bachelor's degree, or S1 as we recognize the title in Indonesia. And right now, I'm in the 7th semester, which contains one of the premise of linguistics, which is psycholinguistics. And in this video, I'm gonna be talking about this very interesting subject that if you understand how to put it into good use, it can be a very effective and versatile tool in a lot of things that you do. So now, without further ado, the topic that I'll be talking about right now is the psychology of language. Now, of course, anyone will be familiar with what is a language already, but I can guarantee that at least 70% of people who admit to understand what language is only know about a language in a practical and a normal conversation standpoint. And this is only scratching the surface, by the way, and we at the linguistics department goes way beyond all of that. So consider yourself lucky for already clicking this video, and make sure you keep on watching until the end of this video. Who knows what you might learn from this video. Right, so some of you might have already guessed that the topic today is psycholinguistics. But what precisely is psycholinguistics? And perhaps the million-pound question is how to put this psycholinguistic thing into good use. So stay tuned and buckle up, because things will get a lot more interesting. However, before I carry on with the topic, please do us a big favor and hit that subscribe button down below for those who is new to this channel, and turn on the notification button. That way you won't miss our future content and releases that might be even more interesting and useful to all of you. Again, it is just a small favor. It's really easy to do to subscribe to our channel, but you really do us a big favor. Okay, so psycholinguistics. If you are watching this video, I assume that you must have not been completely new to linguistics. And to make things clear, for those who are not yet so familiar with the term, linguistics is basically a subject or a study that focuses on language and all of its bits and bobs and details. Just like how you study biology, and you study about physics and mathematics and all of that. Linguistics is basically just a subject that deals with language. So you should have been able to guess that psycholinguistics deals with psychology and linguistics, hence its name. And psycholinguistics is a branch of linguistics that deals with what is the relation between language and psychology that, as you know, recently gained a lot of popularity. But let me tell you first and foremost that it is actually not something new, and the first ever research on psychology's relation with language dates back to around a century ago, in the year 1936, originally coined by a psychologist named Jacob Cantor. Right, so long story short, and fast forward to modern times, and now you ask me, what does psychology has to do with language or linguistics? Or perhaps instead of asking that question, you now realize something about the correlations that you don't previously pay attention to. But in any case, that's fine, and let me stress first and foremost that psychology plays a huge part behind language use and processes. Perhaps more prominently, psycholinguistics deals with the psychological process in which humans acquire and use language. And you should know the key here is acquire and use, which means that before we even know what a language is, There already is some psychological process involved that lets us comprehend and acquire language, preferably as a little baby, for example. The next one then is use, meaning that behind our everyday language, behind the language used in the media, in advertisement, in anything really, there is some aspect of psychology that is involved. Okay, so to give you a better example, give you a better idea of how all of this works, let's first take a look at how humans communicate. So, of course, human communicate by speaking and listening, right? Just like how I'm talking to you right now. But let's talk about animals first and foremost to make things a little bit more simple. Some of the more complex animals, one that share nearly identical DNA structures, but with humans are primates. And we're talking about the likes of chimpanzees and bonobos and that sort of things. But why did I bring this fact out? It's basically because according to C.F. Hockett in 1959, all animal, human included, has some type of communication. But according to M.Hum in 1988, even those animals which are most closely related to human being does not have one thing that human has, because the fact that animal language appears to be majorly comprised of science sequences. But this does not mean that psycholinguistics does not apply to animals. It does. And even more so in human, where our language is much more complex than those of even the most sophisticated animals. So, back again to the statement of human communicate by speaking and listening and sometimes observing, as in some visual sign and whatnot. And the interesting part about this is that these activities does not just happen. Behind all of these, there are mental processes that is happening in the background, right? And for starters, we're going to start with perhaps the very base of psycholinguistics. So, in psycholinguistics, we recognize what's called comprehension, production, and acquisition. Comprehension is the mental process in psycholinguistics that deals with the process of listening and what's called the deep structure of the sentence. So imagine, when I'm talking to you right now and you're listening to this video, deep inside, there's actually a mental process happening that enables you to grasp what I'm talking about. On the other hand of the spectrum, we recognize what's called production or language production. This is a mental process that deals with how people come up with what they're going to say. And this process is closely related to competence, performance, and the surface structure of a sentence. So take note here, surface structure as opposed to deep structure that I've previously mentioned. Well, in this context, competence simply means to what extent is one's ability to use language. Performance, well, as the name suggests, deals with the actual activity of speaking, and surface structure deals with how a sentence is supposed to be spoken, as opposed to deep structure, right? And yet another mental process that is generally talked about in psycholinguistics is acquisition. And basically this process deals with how children comprehend and produce their first languages. As I've told you earlier, in psycholinguistics we mainly deal with acquisition and use. And the mental process that of acquisition deals with how human acquire language, or perhaps any living creature acquire language. So, now the most interesting part is, how do you put psycholinguistics into good use? And to be very, very compact and straightforward about this, again, I don't want this video to be a really long explanation that probably will bore you out. So, at the very, very base, whenever you read an article, an advertisement, or even listen to, say, a product review video in YouTube, you are basically witnessing and engaging in psycholinguistics. So, in the present times, we know what's called a digital marketing and copywriting. If you are keen, if you are professional in marketing, you have almost certainly heard about these two terms. So in copywriting, whether you realize it or not, the writers are actually manipulating your psychology into believing that what they are trying to say. And the same actually happens when you are listening to, say, a YouTube video about a product review. What the creators are trying to achieve is actually to influence you into thinking that a particular product is, whether it is good or it is bad or it is worth buying, it is worth the money, and so on and so forth. So psycholinguistics is actually very broad and indeed very useful and interesting for anyone. Not only for linguists, as I've told you earlier, even in YouTube reviews, in advertisements, it's everywhere basically. And anybody from studying psycholinguistics can actually benefit from learning this subject. So that marks the end of my discussion for today, and indeed the end of this video actually. So first of all, I wanted to thank you for watching this video, thank everyone who have stayed until the end of this video. And as a footnote, I wanted to state that my explanation is just a very base of psycholinguistics and basically the psychology of language. And if you wanted to learn more about this subject, please do not hesitate to leave us a comment down below. So probably we'll make another video explaining this subject. And again, probably check out the other videos in this channel. Who knows what you might learn from our contents. So again, thank you very much for watching. I really hope that it can be useful for everyone who's watching. And don't forget as well to like and share this video, because that really helps tell YouTube that we are doing a good job and tell them to promote our video more. Finally, I'm Nicholas, a student of Universitas Methodist Indonesia under the supervision of Dr. Esrin Ambarita. We'll see you again. Take care.